Desmond Bane has been traded to Orlando. In return, Memphis receives Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, Cole Anthony, the 16th overall pick in this year's draft, a swap second most favorable of Washington and Phoenix and Orlando in 2026, and then Orlando's 28 and 30 picks and a 2029 pick swap. That is the details of the trade. Let me know what you have to say about this deal.
Shocking. I think it's big. We were expecting the Magic to trade for a guard. I don't think this guy was on anyone's really radars at all. Um, I think they asked around the league for Trey Young. They wanted to know what the price was on Darius Garland, and no one really wanted to get it him, so they pivoted. And I think this is a great pivot, honestly, Pat, especially for what you're looking for or what the Magic are looking for. What do they struggle with? Spacing. You go out there and get one of the best, one of the most consistent 3 point shooters, 3 point shooting wings in the league. Um, Shot 39% last year. He's been at 40% pretty much his whole career, and he's a volume shooter as well. Um, Takes a lot of threes a game, and I think this makes them a serious contender in the East, especially with the Celtics being out and the Bucks not going to probably not going to be what they once were. You go out there. This is the second best defense in the league, and you go out there and add Desmond Bane, who's a great offensive player. I think it elevates their game in a big way because now you have Franz and Paolo who can go and drive and kick out to Desmond Bane or Jalen Suggs. I think this opens up the offense in enormous ways for them. And Desmond Bane, let's not forget, he's a great two-way player and can play defense as well. So you don't take away anything on that side of the ball, and you get rid of KCP, who we've talked about it, not not a great year for him. The contract they gave him, I don't think it was like it's not a crazy bad contract, but obviously the value that they wanted from him, it's not there. So you get rid of that contract. The four first round picks is huge for the Grizzlies. I think that justifies this Grizzlies trade. And we were talking about it, Pat. We were questioning whether this big three would stay, especially with Jaren Jackson Jr. about to get his big extension. Um, and that's what they did. They got a lot of first round picks. I think they got one of the two. Did they get two of the first round picks for the Magic this year, or just one of them?
Just
Or did they
16th
get 16?
overall.
And okay,
Just 16.
so
Yeah.
yeah, so they get two picks in this draft. They already have a ton of wings, Pat. Let's not forget that. Um, Although they might not be as good as Desmond Bane right now, they definitely have lots of area to improve. Jalen Wells, huge rookie for them last year. GG Jackson, um, 2 years ago was the talk of the town in Memphis. I feel like as one of the next up and coming stars. They also have Vince Williams Jr.'s there. Vince Williams Jr. So they have a lot of wings, Pat. I felt like they had good depth at that point. Um, and now that frees up a little bit of space for you to get to extend Jaren Jackson Jr. You already could do it, but now it just makes it more manageable. You take a shot at KCP. I feel like you buy a little low by him throwing him in there. Maybe he returns back to his Denver ways in a new fit, um, and he won't really be asked too much. I don't think he'll be asked too much of a big role in Memphis as he was for the Magic. So hopefully that helps. Maybe we'll definitely have to see. And yeah, I think the Magic are legit contenders now. They didn't really have to give up much of their core either. Like they get to keep Anthony Black too, who I think was a big piece for them last year. And like you're gonna have Jalen Suggs, who was so good at 3 point shooting for them last year. And Desmond Bain is a guy, unlike Suggs, who I feel like Suggs is more of a catch and shoot 3 point guy, 3 and D wing. But Desmond Bain has shown his ability to shoot off the dribble, shoot fading, shoot moving, and also catch and shoot. He's really expanded his game. He can self create a little bit. It's big. It's big. This makes us a pretty scary Orlando team because now you don't now not only do you have to worry about the defense, but now you have legitimate offensive threats. Yeah,
I'll say this: if the Magic would have also gotten off of the Wendell Carter Jr. contract as well in this deal, this would be an A+ for me. I think it's a great deal for both teams. I think we had talked about it with Memphis that they are likely going to break up their big three a lot sooner than people probably anticipated. I didn't think it would be this soon. I thought they would probably run it back next year with a different coach and then maybe make some pivotal roster decisions once the Jaren Jackson Jr. extension kicked in. Um, but they went ahead and got ahead of the curve there. I think there's some possibility that they're just wanting to stack capital for when they are potentially making a star trade. Um, I don't know who that star would be right now. I don't think they are a Kevin Durant team, and we'll talk about more Kevin Durant stuff in a second. But I think they're going to, first of all, they're going to draft probably somebody win now at 16th overall, um, and potentially as a Desmond Bane replacement. But I think that will be very good for them. I don't see any possibility of them moving one of Ja or Jaren Jackson. I feel like they were going to move one of the three guys, and they chose Desmond Bane. Um, as far as Orlando's position goes, getting Desmond Bane, I think they have a extremely talented starting lineup now. This is an Eastern Conference that is going to be very, top heavy. I think this pushes Orlando to right now, like they're probably the third, or not the third, they're probably the fourth best team in the Eastern Conference, and you could, talk me into them being better than one of New York or Indiana or Cleveland going into next season. I think it's very good for them. I think also with Bane is you get some type of cost certainty. Um, he'll be just under the 25% scale max extension for the next, I think, 2 to 3 seasons, and just gives you some cost certainty. They're going to have a Palo Max extension kicking in very soon. It'll be 3 seasons with Desmond Bane, or 4 seasons with Desmond Bane under making just under 25% of the cap. And I think that's a perfectly fine deal. They'll sign Palo to his max extension. I think with them, the real question for me is they still have a crowded center room, and that didn't really change from this trade. I think getting off KCP as well, and a little bit of Cole Anthony, like those were probably some dead money contracts that they probably wanted to get out of anyway. So I think that is probably responsible for an extra pick being involved in this deal. Um, and if they wanted to really make another upgrade, they could technically do it. It wouldn't be done using draft capital as the trade piece, but they have the salaries to get it done. They are just about 5 million under the second apron, and they are currently have a basically full roster for next season. Um, so they have a lot of ability to make this a better team next year, or even more next season. And I like where Orlando's at. I think it's a good trade for them. Um, do you have anything on like the return? Because I was seeing a lot of negative stuff about the totality, not the totality, but the sum of the package being too much for Desmond Bane.
Yeah. Let's not forget that Desmond Bane is a borderline all-star. He's a 3-and-D wing, really great one, and he's a super consistent shooter in this league. Um, I mean, you look at what the Pacers did. They gave up 3 first-round picks for Pascal Siakam, and then Mikal Bridges got 6 first-round picks, and then you only give 4 for Desmond Bane. I think Desmond Bane, people forget how good he really is just because Memphis kind of gets. I feel like Memphis isn't a hugely talked about. Like even when they're second in the West, not a lot of people were talking about them, unless it's Ja Morant or the suspensions around Ja Morant. I mean, this guy's shot 40% from the 3-point line since 2020. His whole career, he's been shooting 40% from that line, and he's been able to average 20 points a game. I mean, last year he was in a scheme that didn't even fit him at all, really, and that's why. And it ended up leading to some coaches getting fired, and he still averaged 19 on 40% shooting. And he's a great defensive player. I don't think it's as ridiculous overreach as people are saying. I think people are discrediting Desmond Bane. I think he's going to go out there and show people like who he is. I mean, this guy's a legit player. Like he's very legit. Like he was legit the second best player on Memphis last year, over Jaren Jackson Jr. And I mean, right now he plugs himself in as third best, I think. I still maybe even second. You can get him over Paolo, but I think he's the third best player on this team. And for Desmond Bane to be your third option, I think a lot of teams would kill for that. And not only that, Pat, another thing I think that people are, may not be looking at is that Orlando has their 4 guys locked up for 3 years, to like the next 3 or 4 years. They have their core 4 guys. And with all the cap stuff and all the new stuff that's going to be coming out in different, like when the salary cap gets raised, who knows how much players are going to be. And the fact that they already have these guys locked up for the foreseeable future, I think is big for Orlando. So I think that the fact that they have their star core 4 locked up, that's pretty big.
Yeah, they'll have them all signed for 4+ seasons once they get this Palo extension figured out. And that is just huge, right? Cap's going to be going up probably 10% this season and probably like 8% for a couple seasons following that. It's just going to be a huge cap spike, and they're going to probably be rough up against the first apron for a year or so, or second apron for a year or so, but they won't necessarily be a team that is greatly financially restricted by the moves that they've made. They have other big salaries on the roster like Jonathan Isaac and Wendell Carter Jr. and Goga Batadze that they could potentially package in a trade for another really impactful player to maybe make their starting lineup even better than it is now. And I think an underrated part of this too is like they're not going to have no ability to draft players. Like they won't have a pick next year. They still have a late first round pick this season, and they're going to be able to add other bench pieces onto their team still. I think it's great for them. Like their starting lineup or their core 4 guys will be making less than the salary cap, and it, that's really good for how good those 4 guys are. And I think more on like the total trade value stuff, because people like to just count the picks. They gave up 4 picks a pick swap for Desmond Bane. If you look back at the Mikal Bridges, it was 5 picks a pick swap from Mikal Bridges. And then I even see like some Gobert stuff being thrown in there, and it was, I think, 5 picks Walker Kessler, who was just picked, and a couple pick swaps for Gobert. And like I understand that people think these are just outrageous trades for the teams that are making them. And I think the Gobert one, looking back on it, wouldn't have been as much if the second apron rules were in place at the time of making that deal. But they made the deal right before the second apron was implemented, which would have greatly decreased Gobert's trade value. But still, they have made this trade. They have given up only picks for these players, right? When I see it getting compared to the Donovan Mitchell deal and what a Giannis deal might look like, and the Luka Doncic deal that just happened, and it's not the same type of a deal for me, in my opinion, with Bane and with Bridges, and even in Gobert's perspective. These guys were traded the value of a top, I don't know, 30 to 50 player in the case of Mikal Bridges, in just draft capital on teams that are probably going to be pretty good. So you're giving up a 2026, well, that pick's kind of valuable for Orlando, but a 2028 pick for Orlando when their entire young core is going to be in their prime, it's probably not a very valuable pick, and they have to give up all multiple of those picks in the value of Desmond Bane, who's probably a top 35 to 40 player in the league, without giving up any salary. Like KCP, giving up KCP might have costed them more assets. And then in the case of Bridges' deal, they only gave up picks for Mikal Bridges. And in the case of Rudy Gobert, they gave up Kessler, salary filler, and picks for these guys. So that's my take. They didn't get Anthony Davis in this trade. So that's why Luka only got them 1 first-round pick. They got Anthony Davis, damn it. Like he would get 6 first-round picks if you only traded first-round picks worth of value for him. We agree. They also got, none of these teams didn't get a Max Christie in these deals. They're a lot different. I think the Utah one, trading Donovan Mitchell, is only aged so terribly because they haven't traded Markkanen or Sexton. They did trade Abaji and get a early second round pick out of it at one point. But yeah, they Utah's a different situation. They got some hoarding going over there with the Ainge family. But yeah, I'll let you get a second to speak since I've gone for a second on this.
Yeah, I just what do you like? Do you think that it's gonna be like if a Giannis trade does happen? Do you think it's gonna be like 10 or 12 first round picks? Like, what do you think? Because like that's how people are kind of thinking it's gonna go. If four is for Bane and six was for Bridges, like will it be eight for Giannis? Or I mean I honestly don't think so. I feel like it'd more be a combination of players and picks, like like legit players, like really good like players. With some picks as well. I don't think it's going to be like Jabari Smith Jr., Jalen Green, and eight first round picks. Like there's going to be have to be some give with the players they give up. But I just see a lot of people saying like it's going to be like a ridiculous amount of first round picks for Giannis. I just want to get your thoughts.
I just don't think Giannis is getting traded. I think the team that would have made sense for me is San Antonio if they would have given up Steph Castle, Dylan Harper, and like the cell, and then their collection of picks that they have. Um, if not them, OKC is kind of like the interesting one if they were to leave one of Holmgren or Jalen Williams available. I don't think Milwaukee agrees unless Giannis is forcing his way out um, to make a deal unless they are getting, like you said, like 8 first round picks of just value. But you're not going to find a enough salary filler on a team for Giannis. In the case of Bridges was making like 22 million, so the Knicks could easily find a salary to fill $22 million. Or Desmond Bane, KCP was already making $29 million, so it's really hard to get, or it's a lot easier for them to get dead money up to 36 million to trade for Desmond Bane versus Giannis. If you're getting a dead million or a dead money worth of you know that much, it's going to be serious draft capital just to get off of that type of money. So um, Giannis will be traded for real players on top of picks versus these guys who were traded purely for picks. Um, but I think Giannis is staying put. I think what's more interesting is the Durant stuff because right after Shams is like, yeah, Kevin Durant's not getting traded for a return anywhere near Desmond Bane, and I think it makes sense. There's a lot of people who don't, but I'll let you say your piece on Durant before we talk about more Durant trades, I guess.